Hi, Sandra here. I'm so excited because today we're gonna see the world's most modern helicopter simulator. Are you ready? Then let's go past the airfield of Air Zermatt and go say hello.
This video is all about helicopters, and what would be a more suitable start than a visit at world-famous Air Zermatt? While that company has been covered in many different documentaries and shows, we're here to discover something special that you have probably never heard about before, even though it has an enormous impact on the aviation industry. I'm talking about a radically new kind of flight simulator. Not the kind that you attach to your gaming rig for fun, but those which actual helicopter pilots use for training. In this video, we're going to meet the inventor of the device himself. We'll learn how this amazing machine even came to be, how it works, and also how actual helicopter operators make use of it. I also attempted to fly this thing myself, without any prior knowledge, an experience that left me shaking, which I show you in a sibling video of this one released at the same time on this very channel. You can check it out afterwards if you want to find out how that worked out. Our story starts with a humble beginning, an idea, a tinkering project. Less than a decade later, that project has evolved into what I think is the world's most modern flight simulator. Let me introduce Fabi.
So my name is Fabi Riesen. I'm the founder of Loft Dynamics. Loft Dynamics is the company which completely changed the way pilot training is done. In a nutshell, we've introduced virtual reality, and this is the first company on the whole earth which managed to qualify FSCDs, flight simulator training devices, using virtual reality, making it smaller, more realistic, and more affordable. The whole thing has started in the living room. Myself, I did a private pilot license back in 1999, and at the time there were already simulators there. So simulator is not a new invention. Myself, I was a little bit disappointed that after 20 minutes we were able to see all the features and capabilities, but I didn't really got a real training output on it. So it was always running in my head, and then in 2013 I found very cool stuff, possibilities to build something. So I started in the living room as a family project with the kids. At a certain moment, as at the time already an old engineer, I faced my limit to get it really well done. So I did reach out to a former colleague from Cisco Systems who was a professor at HSR University. And this guy forwarded my request to Guido Schuster, professor at the time there, who brought in Robert Tegner, who is today's head of software engineering. And then the whole thing started to evolve as a project between engineer colleagues sharing the same passion. And then it grown bigger, and at a certain moment we founded the company.
And the people Fabi reached out to weren't just any engineers. They were specialists in motion control and signaling processing from one of Switzerland's top engineering schools. The first one to join, Christian Marti, would become Loft Dynamics co-founder and chief technology officer.
In 2018, we've been contacted by EASA based on a YouTube video. So at the beginning of it, I thought it's a prank. Having someone calling, saying, hey, it's EASA, the European Aviation Authority. They saw a YouTube video and they want to visit us. So, well, in fact, it was really EASA behind, and the reason, because EASA came out in 2018 with the rotorcraft safety roadmap. And the rotorcraft safety roadmap was a result of a lot of analysis and investigation why we still have one fatal accident per week just in Europe. And every third accident is actually happening in training and checking. So pilots go to train and check to be safe, but they die. And that's the part you really could be done on a simulator.
But by regulations, only a tiny fraction of the practice hours can currently legally be done in a simulator. So why is that?
Not realistic enough. And the not realistic enough goes back to those traditional ways how those full flight simulators are done, having a dome projection. And if you are having a dome projection, it's just projected. So if you move the head, you don't have a visual deepness, so you don't have the stereoscopic view, meaning a pilot who want to judge the height over the ground is missing that information. So that's those super expensive simulators are having a visual system which is simply wrong.
Turns out Fabi was onto something. While the state of the art was to set up a huge simulator that could cost up to 15 to 25 millions of dollars, the timing was just right for Fabi, as a brand new technology had just begun to emerge.
Well, it was in end of 2013, beginning of 2014, there was this first VR headset released by the time Oculus. Like put those glasses in the head, and out of a sudden I've realized that it's really great to solve the stereoscopic view problem. Because, you know, like if you just build a simulator only with screens, I mean, you can't watch down, and as a private pilot, those are all missing information. But then, yeah, of course, the time it was not brilliant and so on, but making the assumption that at a certain moment the VR glasses are having good enough resolution and is evolving, we just started to develop in that direction. Now, in order that the pilot can make his or her procedure, they need to be able to operate the buttons, the switches, the touch screens, and so on. And this is also something we've developed in-house, because, you know, the moment you are wearing VR glasses, you don't see your own body. So what we've did is we've created full-scale replica cockpits where everything you need to reach according to the air flight manual is there. So if there is a switch, it's exactly at the same position like in the real aircraft. If there is a touch screen, we actually only do the touch because we don't need the screen. That's because the entire visual system is done in virtual reality. The pilot doesn't need to wear any sensors on the body. I mean, there is no need to wear gloves, nothing. You just go there, and then post-tracking system is continuously checking your body and is estimating and guessing the bones, and is creating a real-time skeleton. And that real-time skeleton is fit into the visual system and represented as an avatar. So basically you see yourself as an avatar, and with the correct length and everything, and that's the way how you can operate your button and switches and touch screens and so on, and fly the helicopter like you're in the real thing. But it's much more immersive than the traditional one with just having a projection outside in the real cockpit.
And immersive it is indeed. Immediately after entering the simulator, I accepted the avatar's hands as my own. It seems so easy when everything just works, but there's absolutely nothing easy about building a hyper-realistic semi-virtual helicopter sim. Let me introduce you to Engineer Aldo.
I'm a mechanical engineer at Loft Dynamics, and I'm basically responsible for everything that you see on the simulator and everything you can touch. So all those parts you see here, I engineer them, and we work mainly with CAD software to design those parts, and also do a lot of prototyping and trying out new stuff. And also what's cool with our simulator is that most things we have to re-engineer them, because we cannot take the actual buttons, for example, from the Airbus helicopter, so we have to re-engineer the button. So it's a lot of cool stuff. In the real helicopter, those joysticks and levers and stuff, they are just connected with the engine or the rotor. So that's kind of easy and not really complex. But in our simulator, it's much more complex, because first we need a sensor that measures what we do here, because it just goes to the software. Then we need some step motors that give force feedback, because, for example, if you have wind shear or something happens to the rotor, you feel it, because the stick will push with a really strong force. So we need those motors too. Then we have vibrators that give this vibration thing. So underneath here, there's a really complex system to do all this stuff. There's also really basic stuff like this little button here. That's just a normal knob, but it has this little safety guard on it. And in the real helicopter, it's just a guard. But we need to track it, because you have to see in the goggles or in the VR that this one is open. So there's a sensor that actually measures the position of this guard. So there's a lot of things that is in the real helicopter really easy, but with our sim it's a bit more complicated.
Everything needs to work in perfect synchrony with minimal delay to create a credible illusion. But this complexity allows for extremely precise analysis of every single flight hour.
But don't try to hover already. Try to go down a little bit more before you completely go to hover mode.
If you have such a physics model there where you can add parameters like density, like length, like what shapes or whatever, as better the physics model is, it already behaves good, and then you take a flight test data and then you tune that flight model using flight test data until it's perfectly matched. And that's what's called the objective test, which needs to be given to the authority, thousands of pages. And then in addition, you need to have a couple of subject matter experts, the reference pilots, which do have a lot of experience on that specific aircraft type. They need to fly those subjective tests and validate it and give their feedback, which also needs to be documented. And the whole paper goes to the regulator, which is checking if everything has been done compliant. Then beginning of 2020, we got the whole team together. So basically everyone left the job, whose friends and family helped, and decided now to develop everything what's needed for the qualification. In 2021, in April, we've managed to get the world's first qualified FSTD using a head-mounted display virtual reality, where we are super proud of it, even on Wikipedia. Back in 2024, we also got the world's first qualification under the FAA, which is the entire US market. Right now, we are working on several other places in Africa, in Japan, and in Canada, and so on. So basically, that technology we've created, we go now from regulator to regulator to get it established and push it forward and qualify the devices.
In just a decade, a hobby project has evolved into a partnership with Airbus Helicopters, Alaska Airlines, and with hundreds of engineers all across Switzerland and Santa Monica. Loft Dynamics is now looking into building simulators for fixed-wing aircraft, such as the Boeing 737 or the Airbus A320. But that would leave the scope of this video. So let's come back to the H125 helicopter and see how that's used in practice. A particularly interesting customer here is Air Zermatt, because that is a partnership that goes in both directions. On one side, Air Zermatt can train their pilots on Loft Dynamics simulator. On the other side, Loft can learn from the insights that Air Zermatt gathers while doing so.
On the H125, it's your most used helicopter there. You have helicopter pilots having 16,000 hours experience and so on, so they really pushed it to a very, very high level, which is a challenge on one hand, but on the other hand, it also helped us to make the product really fantastic on a high Swiss standard level.
Fabi is talking about no other than Gerold Biner, an internationally renowned helicopter pilot and living legend in the world of alpine rescue. This man is hard to summarize. Over 40 years of career at Air Zermatt, including being the CEO from 2011 to 23, 5,000 high-altitude rescue missions, 500,000 of sling operations, co-establisher of the first helicopter rescue base in the Himalayas, and an international helicopter flight authority. Besides that, Gerold is also just a really easygoing and chill guy who instantly agreed to welcome me at Air Zermatt to show me the simulator and giving a few interviews for this video.
My name is Gerold Biner. I'm a helicopter pilot worked for Air Zermatt for 40 years, and now I'm pre-retired, and they still allow me to fly the simulator.
How did you learn of Loft Dynamics and when did you get the simulator?
Well, a very famous instructor named Claude Richard, who developed the Richard vortex recovery technique, he told us that he's in touch with some brains from Zurich. And these guys, Fabi constructed the first simulator at home with his kids. And the use of virtual reality made this technology a big advantage compared to the old simulators with the big, huge domes. I think personally, everything below 30 knots is not really real. So it's far away from the real aircraft. That means whenever you step into a regular simulator with a dome and a projection, you have to learn to fly the simulator first again. And this simulator with virtual reality is much closer to the real aircraft, and therefore you need much less time until you're in the simulator and in the real world again.
My name is Sonja Heer. I'm 30 years old. I am a dispatch of Air Zermatt. The first time when I was into the helicopter as a little girl, I thought, oh my God, this is the best job you can ever have. But I never thought about it that it could be the best job for me. I always thought it's for someone else. I decided 1.5 years before that I wanted to start the private pilot license. Right now I'm in the middle of the theory part, and when I can go to the simulator, that's a very exciting part and always refreshing, and you know why you do it. That's the fun part of the game.
Chopper, linking on the cover, good. So, cyclic zurückkommen, cyclic zurückkommen. So, stehen im Cycling bestimmte Speed kontrollieren. Ja. Und mit dem Collective bist du eigentlich den Gleitwinkel kontrollieren. Ja. Logisch gut. Jetzt hat ganz guter Winkel. Jetzt kannst du zurückkommen im Cycling, ganz leicht. Und dann so lassen. Nochmal, morgen. Was passiert?
Normally, I don't do it on the Ecoroi. I do it on the Robinson or 2.2. That's a little bit different. So it makes a lot of fun when you can take an H125. It has like limitless power. It's very fun.
We had the big opportunity to be involved also in the development and giving the feedbacks. You know, it needed on the beginning a lot of different feedbacks from experienced pilots from the A-stop. And we were quite early at that stage involved, and also in getting all the information, the data from the real aircraft with all the different adapters and receivers and sensors that these brains at Loft Dynamics, they could develop such a beautiful tool coming close to the real aircraft.
If someone had only trained on this simulator day and night for a long time, would you let them fly at one of the helicopters?
We tried that on the beginning, maybe 5 to 10 hours on the simulator, up to a level where they could minimum hover the aircraft or initiate a takeoff. And when we went from the simulator onto the aircraft, everything was easy for them. So they could fly the helicopter.
So obviously I wanted to know what would happen if I tried this myself. And you will see all about that in my second video. Spoiler alert, I made a mess of it. But that's a topic for the other video, which is online right now.
A whole 9 months have elapsed between the time of the recording at Loft Dynamics and the current state of the edit. These 2 videos were a big project, and it took me hundreds of hours to edit them together next to my full-time job. Thank you very much for your patience, my dear viewers. I will take this opportunity to remind you that you can support my independent work as a Patreon. Thank you very much to the people who have done so and are now indicated on the screen. And as always, a huge thank you to all the people who made this video possible. Be it Gerold and Sonja, as well as the whole team of Air Zermatt, Fabi, Flo, Aldo, Lars, and the rest of the team at Loft Dynamics. Everybody at Loft Dynamics and Air Zermatt has been so welcoming, so unbureaucratic, and just so easygoing. It's been a pure pleasure. And with that, we're approaching the end of this video. If you want to be notified about further videos, do not forget to subscribe. You know, it's gonna probably take a while until our next video comes out, as always, and I hope the wait is going to be worth it. So thank you so much for watching and have a very nice day. Bye bye.